and I'm the founder of Goldfire Studios, which is a browser-based game development company out of Oklahoma City. So at Goldfire Studios, we've actually been experimenting with HTML5 for about 2 years now. And since the platform really started to get some momentum, and since then we have completely dedicated our company to HTML5 and open web game development. So we actually have a fairly large scale multiplayer HTML5 game in the works right now. We also just launched our new social gaming platform, Goldfire.me, which sort of the idea behind that is that we see truly social games as being ones that create new friendships and communities within and around games. So that's what we've been working on for a while, and we've positioned it as something that really caters to HTML5 and open web games. So over the last decade or so, we've seen a proliferation of new devices and platforms that allow gamers to play anywhere and at any time. And this has really allowed the industry to go mainstream. However, this fragmentation has also made it extremely difficult for game developers to deploy their games at a high quality level to more than 1 or 2 different platforms. So some emerging technologies, commonly referred to as HTML5, sort of an umbrella term, is starting to change all of this. And so we're currently on the edge of a major shift in the consumption and development of both games and other types of applications, where the open web will once again become the dominant platform for over native applications. And so this won't obviously be an overnight event, but as you'll see, the advantages of the open web and HTML5 technologies do far outweigh the disadvantages. So the first major advantage of HTML5 and open web development is that you can write your code once, generally in JavaScript, and then deploy that same code and that same application to any device or platform as long as it has a browser. So you're no longer forced to force your users to download a big, bulky game download file, or to force them to install and fire up a plugin in their browser just to play your game. You simply point them in their web browser, the regular web browser, to your website, and they can begin playing your game instantly. Another advantage is that by using these open standards is that you're able to make your game development faster, easier, and more cost effective. This really helps with faster prototyping and for really any size team distributed development, which helps make the open web a really ideal platform for both development and deployment of games and other applications. So the third major advantage that I'm going to highlight today is that of full control. So for example, if you need to push out some bug fixes or a new feature to your game, you simply take that new code and you push it out to your remote server, and all of your players are now playing on the same new version of your game. In contrast with downloadable or mobile games, you have to rely on your users in that case to go manually download and then install each and every update that you push out for your game. And so the open web not only eliminates fragmentation across platforms, but it eliminates that fragmentation that exists within your own game. And it also gives you full control over not only your game itself, but the experience around your game, which I think is just as important. So don't get me wrong, not everything with HTML5 is perfect right now. As with any new technology, there are some roadblocks in the way. But the good news is that there are solutions to all of those right around the corner. So the first major roadblock is with browser support. And for the most part, the latest versions of all the major browsers support all of the features under the current HTML5 specifications. But let me just get a show of hands. How many of you are Internet Explorer users? Okay, a couple. Good, that's good. You all need to keep doing that because they need you right now. Sorry if there's any Microsoft people out there. But the good news is that IE10 is coming out later this year and will address a lot of those issues. But even in the good browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, there are still some issues, namely with audio support, which is still fairly fragmented and can't be used for a very high level in game development at this point. But we are at a tipping point right now where the majority of players are now running HTML5 capable browsers. The next big roadblock is with performance. So we have seen this area improving dramatically over the last couple of years with things like hardware acceleration and faster JavaScript engines showing up in browsers. But there is still a noticeable gap between the performance of rendering and animations in the browser as opposed to in native applications right now. However, with the work we've been doing at Goldfire Studios with our HTML5 game development and the platform I mentioned, we do believe that within the next few short years, that gap will have decreased so much that the end user won't be able to tell the difference any longer. Another area of performance to keep in mind is with WebGL. So WebGL is an implementation of OpenGL in the browser, and because of that, its performance is already getting on par, at least in some areas, with native code, and so you can get some really great performance out of that. But the browser support is lacking even worse with WebGL than other parts of HTML5. And the third major roadblock right now is a lack of quality, feature-rich tools and engines. So on other platforms that have been around a while, we've got tools and engines out there that have been able to mature to make the process of making really high-quality games a lot easier. But since game development with HTML5 is such a new platform, those don't quite exist to a high level yet for HTML5. However, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what is available today and where that's headed. So, sort of when you look at tools for HTML5, the first thing you want to look at right now is with conversion tools. Some of those include particle code, phone gap, spaceport, and game closure. So what these do is they allow you to actually convert your HTML5 application to a native application for a variety of different platforms like iOS, Android, and for some of those even desktop. So these are great for addressing those browser support issues. However, I don't personally feel that these are the best solution long term because they do negate those open web advantages I was mentioning, and those browser support issues are going to work themselves out over time. As far as game engines go, there actually are quite a few JavaScript and HTML5 based game engines starting to show up. Unfortunately, even the more notable ones like Impact, Cocos 2D, Crafty, Lime.js, NVJS, and 3JS, at this point are best used for smaller scale, more sort of project-based games at this point just because they are also new and such early development. 3JS is based on WebGL. It's a pretty cool little engine. I definitely urge checking out their GitHub page to see some really cool demos that they put up. However, with that being said, there actually were two engines that were showing a lot of promise over the last couple of years, which were Rocket Engine and Abyss Engine. And these two engines, for the HTML5 space, were probably most comparable to engines you see on other platforms. Unfortunately, for the HTML5 game development community as a whole, both of these engines were acquired by Disney and Zynga and then subsequently closed source before they were ever released to the public. However, late last year, a new engine was released onto the market called the Isogenic Engine. This is a screenshot from their demo game that they made, a little city builder game that's pretty cool on their website. And this is actually the engine that we have selected to use at Goldfire Studios for our upcoming game that I mentioned. And simply put, we found that this was the best engine available for sort of larger scale HTML5, more traditional type games. It's got full 2D, 2.5D rendering and animation support, full multiplayer networking support, as well as a host of other features you would expect in engines on other platforms to make that game development easier for high quality games. So I obviously believe that HTML5 is the future of online game development, but it's not just great for a unified development platform. It also provides the largest distribution channel channel by a pretty wide margin. So by the end of this year, over 1 billion HTML5 mobile devices will have been sold, and that number will again double by the end of next year. So that's not even counting the currently hundreds of millions, soon to be billions, of other HTML5 capable devices like desktop computers, tablets, and more increasingly TVs. So needless to say, this is a very large addressable market that you can't find all in one place on another platform. Something else that I commonly hear from people about HTML5 game development is they're like, James, you know, you can't really make real games with HTML5. You can only make Tetris and Snake. Well, I mean, my first response is, what is the problem with Tetris? It's an awesome game, right? But, you know, that might have been true a couple of years ago when the platform was really starting to just get legs, and those were easy demos to make. But the reality is, either already or soon to be, any type of game is possible on the platform for the most part. And I'm a strong believer that at some point in the future, we will see a game that is comparable to like a World of Warcraft running in your browser with no downloads or plugins. So don't just expect a bunch of Farmville clones to come out of HTML5. So again, my name is James Simpson from Goldfire Studios. I hope I've been able to give you a quick but informative look into the future of online game development. And if you ever have any questions, you can email me or tweet me at Goldfire Studios, and I blog about these topics a lot at our website at goldfirestudios.com. So, thanks.